Welcome back to this latest episode of Japan's Top Business Interviews. I'm your host, Dr. Greg Story, President, Dale Carnegie Tokyo Training. My special guest today is Mr. Masashi Ogino, who is the previous country head for Qantas Airways here in Japan. Well, as an Australian, of course, I'm very proud of Qantas and very happy. I've met you many, many years ago in your role in Qantas. So, Ogino-san, you've been leading in Japan for quite a long time. Give us a bit of the backstory on how your career unfolded, and then we'll talk a little bit about your leadership experiences.
Thank you, Gregson, for the kind introduction for myself. As you said, recently I was working for the Australian-based Airline in Japan organization for a long time, like about 17 years plus. But even before that, my aviation experience is 43 years. Since I graduated from university, I started working for the US-based airline in 1979 for about 25 years. And during that time, I was doing the various jobs in that organization. And I started with the cargo equipment serviceman, carrying the bag at the airport.
All right. Okay.
Then I did the sales, marketing, HR, corp communications, and 3 years of my experience in the company, I was working at the head office in the U.S.
Oh, okay.
And that was quite a very good experience of working with the M&A management style there. And that was the timing of the change of the business model at the time. That was 1999 to 2001 and 1994 to 96 and 1999 to 2000. So that was the one. And Qantas experience started from 2005.
So just going back, when you were working in Japan for the American airline, at what point did you get some leadership responsibility? Probably your first leader job. When was that?
Yes, at that time, it was very challenging for myself to do the kind of keep the balancing of the local culture, business style, and introducing the global business management style in the organization.
So was that before you went to the States or after you went to the States?
Before.
So you get your first job as a leader, and presumably they're all Japanese staff, but they're working for an international company, so they're not your typical Nikkei domestic Japanese company staff, right? So when you first started leading in Japan, how many people were you leading? What were you, a section head? Were you a division head? What was your role? How many people were taken care of?
Yes, as I said, I started with the cargo equipment serviceman for the working at the airport for 1 year.
Right.
And after that one, I moved to the city office to the commercial job as a sales job.
Right.
And with the experience of the maybe 2 to 3 years of the making the field sales, I was promoted to the manager of the sales department.
Sales
at the time.
team. So how many people in the sales team?
We have about 14 or 15 at
14,
the time.
so a reasonable size.
Yes.
What was challenging about you? One day, you're a colleague, also doing sales.
Yes.
The next day, you're their boss.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So what was challenging going from being a colleague to a boss for you?
Right. At the time, my biggest challenge is in my team, I have senior people who have experienced a long time in the company, so who has the more skills and expertise and knowledge about the industry and how to do the business. But at that time, that was the kind of the timing of the changing the business style in Japan. So that was lucky for myself to do the change management with everybody at the time.
Now, here's a good question. Does the American airline company give you leadership training to prepare you for doing change management, or congratulations, Ogino-san, you are now promoted, take care of the business? Which way was it?
Later on, I should say.
No training, right? So it's quite hard to do change management with no training, I
Yes,
think.
it is. So I started with no training at the time.
Right.
But in the meantime, I luckily could join to the training course in head office at the time.
Okay.
Maybe 2 or 3 years later.
Later.
But the first years, a couple of the years, I need to manage the things by myself with the experience of what I learned before in the past several years since I joined the company. But luckily, the people are very nice. Senior people are very nice. That they know that they need to get the advice and the guidance from myself at the time. So, but what I was concentrating at the time as a leader is making the transparency of our strategy and share the goal as a company, as a Japan organization, and a team and individual. Then I very frequently talk with all the people about what is the goal you need to perform in this quarter, in this half year, then whole year, in your role. So I do this, so you do this. Then let's make it together type of approach at the time. Yeah.
And so then they sent you to America. And when you were working in America, were you in somebody else's team, or they gave you a team in America to run? How did that work?
I was in the broader organization of the international sales team.
Okay.
And in that, there are some departments. One is the in charge of the consolidator in the U.S. One is for cruise. One is for charter. Or I was in charge of the making international sales, especially for the Japanese corporate account market at the time. So that total organization consists of about 150 people in total.
Right.
And my team had about 20 people at the time.
And were they 20 Japanese people? Or
it's
Americans?
a mix of Japanese and non-Japanese.
So here's a question. You've been, learning how to lead people on your own in Japan, and I presume maybe they gave you some training in the States, but then you're dealing with Americans or a mixed nationalities, I guess, being America, quite a multicultural society. So what was challenging about leading a mixed team in the States?
One is a little bit, I had the disadvantage of the language itself. So, but putting that kind of aside, challenge is I still, even though I was in the head office in the position of leading the team itself, I still had the mixed mindset of the Japanese culture, business management, and global head office type of the business management. So I was a little bit confused even at the time. And because, as you know, in Japan, we respect for the harmonized type of the decision and how to make the things with as a whole team itself. But in the U.S., we put the more importance to the individual activities. Or what is their role? What is the responsibility at the time? And combine all the individual responsibility, we lead everything to the team goal at the time. So it took me about several months to get to know the best approach to the non-Japanese team members, how to set up how to share the goal and share the methodology to make the goal delivered at the time. So I made some mistakes and the challenges in the case.
Like what? What were some mistakes you
made? Because in the meeting, I tried to make the total consensus of the goal at the time. Yeah. But the person A said this, B said this, C said something different. So it was very challenging to compile all these things to unify the kind of the common goal itself. But it might be not correct at the time because one person said this is a goal of yourself. So I needed to respect what he said is a personal goal. Then on top of that one, I should have given the common goal to be shared by everybody at the time.
Right. Yeah, it's a bit trickier with Western meetings. The decision's made in the meeting, not outside the meeting. And probably they expected you to make a ruling. Okay, this idea, this are good. Okay, we're doing this.
Yes.
Get to it.
Yes.
And then they follow. So yeah, it's a different style of leadership, and challenging when you come the other direction for people like me trying to lead in Japan. We're used to deciding in the meeting and deciding what's going to happen. You have to switch it around.
Yes.
So you spent about 3-4 years in the States.
Yes.
And then you come back to Japan. And did you come back to the same company in a different role? Or
same company in different role.
Different role,
yes.
Right? So when you came back, what was the role you had when you returned from the States?
I was in charge of the corporate communications and industry relations. So dealing with the stakeholders outside the company mostly, including the DOT, government offices.
So totally different role from sales.
Yes, it was.
Totally different role.
Right.
And I guess you've got a different team now. You've got a different team of people as well. So, how was that for you, trying to go from having a sales role to corporate communications, government relations? It's and those people, I guess, are specialists in that area. They've probably been doing that for a long time. And then you turn up They go, here's a sales guy. What does he know about corporate communications? What does a sales guy know about government relations? So how did you go about getting them to follow you?
Yeah, it was really difficult to get things with myself, but because in the sales area, with the certain things, I can manage my tone of voice, I can manage my expression of the selling activities to customer at the time. But regarding to the corp-com and the government relation type of things, we need to exactly deliver the message, what is designed by the company itself, without making any addition, any deletion from the this contents and sentence. So that was very challenging, even though I sometimes don't agree with the contents itself, but this is a corporate message I need to deliver to the government office and the public itself. So that was the first one. And also the at that time, from corporate communication department, what we send to the market is all companies' official message. So in the sales days, I could say something unique things to the customer, depends on the situation, to deliver the best outcome at the end. But the corp-com and government relations job, I couldn't do that.
Plus also, when you're dealing with Japanese ministries, the ministries have all the power. You have no power. And you can negotiate with clients. Very hard to negotiate with the ministries, right? They got the rules, they got the regulations, you're just the company. We'll tell you what you've got to do. So that's, the whole atmosphere is not flexible, it's not friendly,
no, that's correct.
Not cooperative. It's
that's
like,
correct.
We're the boss, you do what we say. So that's also quite a different atmosphere, and it takes, I guess, you're leading people who are probably more used to that maybe than you are, you're thinking, well, maybe we can do this or that. Not going to work.
Yes, as you pointed out, they have very close relation with the national carriers and airlines most of the time, and they are so much influenced by them. So we, as foreign airlines, we needed to do something very unique and challenging and new things in Japan market. It was all rejected at the time.
Always rejected.
Always rejected. So we maybe start from the scratch and talk on the logical theory about why we need this one as a country itself. What will bring the total benefit of both countries at the end by doing this and that. And still, it was a challenge for them to understand what we said at the time. But did that frequently and repeatedly and try to persuade them why we are saying this at the time. As an airline who has the biggest capacity in the Pacific market. So we are kind of somewhat influenced to the industry itself at the time.
And what was your job after that? Or did you leave the company and go to Qantas after that? Or what was the next step for you there?
Yes, in between I had 1 year to do something different. I left the first airline job in 2004, and I thought I did almost everything of the aviation job at the time. Then, from the last experience of my job, the corporate communications, I moved to the pharmaceutical company.
Pharma company, wow, okay, totally different industry.
Totally different, New Jersey-based pharmaceutical company, and which is trying to merge the Japanese company at the time.
Okay.
Right. So I was doing based on corp-com job, I was doing the chief communications officer at the time, as one of the operating member of the new management itself. So that was the challenge because that U.S. company tried to collaborate with the new Japanese company to work together towards the future as a kind of the joint venture type of the business. So there are two mix of the culture of the U.S. and Japan. And of course, it is not the wrong thing, but the Japanese that company thought that what they have done in the past is the correct things. So they thought that they will continuously do the things follow what they have done before. So that was one option, that's fine. But in order for us to be more global company by combining two companies of the two different nationalities, we needed to introduce many of the new business management method and approach to the market, especially for the sales department of the pharmaceutical companies. Distribution is very, very classic Japanese business approach they had at the time.
And also, I mean, you come in from outside, to this company. It's going through a merger, which in itself is difficult.
Mm-hmm.
You're in the management team, and you are coming from the airline industry.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm sitting in that merged company and you turn up, what does this guy know about the pharma industry? You know, he doesn't know anything about what we do.
Nothing.
And why should I listen to this guy? Why should I follow this guy? So how did you overcome that type of thinking to get them to work with you and follow you?
Of course, I had almost no knowledge about the pharmaceutical things at the time, so I needed to learn. I learned a lot about from the people and from the meeting and from meeting with the customers at the time. But as I said, I was in charge of making communication smoother between two companies that were US-based and Japan-based. So my priority at the time was to make the collaboration of the culture and business of the two different things.
So I guess you were probably, in a way, you were the American expert.
Kind of.
Because you had worked in the States, you knew the business culture there, you knew the mindset.
I think so.
You understood the expectations for the merging companies from the American executives' point of view. So I guess you had some insight that maybe they didn't have, or you saw maybe a bigger picture than they could see. And I guess that's going to give you some credibility within the organization.
I think so. And also that company has a very strong hierarchy type of the structure itself.
Right.
So it was a challenge for these layer of the people to voice out something to the managers.
Right.
So we needed to develop the open communication to that company. That was the first thing I did at the time.
And so how many years were you there?
10 months.
Whoa, 10 months.
Because I was thinking to be there longer at the time, but fortunately or unfortunately, I was talked by somebody to get me to the different company at the time. It's the headhunt company.
Oh, okay.
So first I said, no, I just started this new job, so I cannot do it. But after 10 months, I changed my mind at the end.
Well, it's a complex, different industry, merging, two entities. I mean, I'm sure there was trouble everywhere. And this is when you joined Qantas?
Yes.
Okay. So, Qantas has been in Japan a long time.
Yes.
I came up on Qantas in 1979 on the end of March and landed on the 1st of April. And we had to stop in Manila.
Oh, is that?
To refuel.
Yes.
Can you imagine today, right?
Yes.
We had to fly. We flew to Manila, stopped at the airport, allowed into the duty-free area, refueled the plane, got back on the plane, overnight landed in Tokyo that morning. So I still remember those days. So it's an Australian company, and it's powerhouse in Australia, of course, but Australia's a small country, and probably the number of routes they were flying weren't that great. The capital base of the company probably not that great compared to some of the American companies. So what was the role you went into when you joined Qantas?
I joined with Qantas as the same title as I did for 17 years as a regional general manager of Japan at the time.
Okay, you came straight in as regional general manager.
Yes, I did.
Okay, right. So you're running the whole thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So the people who are working there, one morning they wake up, they go to the office, and you're there. Here's the guy from the American airline and the pharma industry. He's now running Qantas. So how did you think about, I'm now in charge of this company. I don't know probably much about Australia. I don't know much about this company. I don't know much about the people. How did you approach that? Did you have a strategy in mind? Did you have an approach in mind for taking over as the head?
Yes, the business itself between the US companies and Australian company didn't make any difference at the time for myself. So what I should do is to make the people management and people communication first, because we had 140 people working for Japan organization at the time, but it was very challenging for us to make money by the routing between Japan and Australia at the time. So one thing I was talking with the head office is the cost management.
Oh,
it's a very big challenging thing.
Well, that's also tough, Please welcome Ogino-san here, who's going to cut all the costs. No one's happy about that, right? Oh no, So again, this makes it hard.
Yeah, but rather than saying cost, I should say my financial balance.
Okay.
I should say. So how to make the Japan route profitable.
Okay.
So rather than saying cost only.
Oh,
itself,
okay. All right. Good. That's good.
Yeah, but I needed to the restructure of the whole organization at the time on year one, but in order for us to do it, I need to do the transparent communication with the people why we should do this, why it is beneficial for company and each individual.
I'm guessing at that time there were all Japanese in the team?
All Japanese plus few Australian expats are working here at the time.
Oh, at that time, okay.
Right. Even in my team, sales manager was Aussie at the
Okay.
time, right? And some people working at the airport were Aussie, so which is good. And also, when I joined the company, I requested the head office to have one person, Australian person, sent to my office to do the revenue management.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a smart move because there's, I'm sure the CFO in Australia is very happy about that. Oh, good. I can send my guy up to there, keep an eye on Ogino-san, keep an eye on these people working for Qantas in Japan. What are they doing? Yeah, a smart move. And
Right.
so what things did you do? You talk about transparency of communication. What other things did you do to get them on board?
Yes, first thing I did is I met with everybody
Right.
one-on-one, spending 1 hour each. I did that. They repeated maybe
That's
3
what,
or 4 times.
140 hours right there.
Right, that's right, at least times 2 or 3.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
To get to know each other and not away from the business for a while, even for the personal things, all the casual matters I talk with them. And because I needed to close my distance between that person and myself, because I'm the leader, but I'm human working together with you. So towards the same goal as a whole, broader goal of a company, we need to work together to deliver our achievements towards our Japan goal. So we're a team and we are working together. So I needed to share my thoughts to that person and everybody at each not interview, but each conversation and dialogue at the time.
And it's also complex because you've got people in different locations. You've got people in the airport, you've got probably people in the office here, you've got people working shifts. So they're not like, like I walk into my office, they're all there, 9 to 6, they're there. But in that type of industry, it's shift work,
Yes.
It's also dispersed teams, I guess. So that's not such an easy thing.
It's not easy, but I visit everybody at each location, at each time, appropriate time of the I can see these people. And my theory is I should be involved with the operation more to not to 100% take care, but I want to deliver them that I'm involved.
Right.
And you have the person behind you anytime 24/7. So that's why I needed to come to them, to see them, to talk to them on the many various things. And they had some complaints, they had some reports, and they need to share their thoughts, which they didn't tell before. So that was a very fruitful conversation I made at the time with everybody. But at the end, because of the cost and financial improvements, I needed to reduce the headcounts.
Okay.
Unfortunately, but that was a very good start, I think, to talk with these people one by one.
At that time, it was only Tokyo and Narita, I guess?
At that time, we had operation at the Narita, Sapporo, Nagoya, Osaka, and Fukuoka.
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
right.
So, all right, yeah. That's right. They had, you're flying into all those spots at that time.
And that time, there's no LCC type of business model in the market yet.
No.
But many of the major airlines are struggling or making profit at the time by operating the global network at the time. So we had the semi-LCC type of brand at the time. So we put that into Japan market.
This is Jetstar?
No, even before that
Before
one.
Jetstar?
Australian Airlines, we call
Australian Airlines?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
But it didn't work well
No.
in terms of the making good profit. So we tried the many approach and the method of the making the branding to the market. They finally came to Jetstar as LCC development to the market at the time. Right.
And so, in your experience with working with teams, what things have you found has worked well for you to get people together as a unit, to work together, to work towards the goals, to really get them engaged, so they really feel passionate about what they're doing, as opposed to the classic, Japanese salary man, salary woman who's, clock on, clock off, get paid, keep your head down, keep your mouth shut, but don't really put a lot of your heart in there and just, see out your career and that very typical scenario, a very typical stereotype. What have you done that you found work well to get people more engaged in their work?
One of the things I think they have done to these people is that we make sure that you are contributing to the company. We need to make sure that you are part of the producing something to the company as a big contributor. So the role is different by each person. Contribution is very much, and
how do they feel that? I mean, you can say that. Oh, you're making a big contribution. They might think, oh yeah, am I? I got a pretty boring job. Am I really making a contribution? Because often in big organizations, jobs can be quite small and specific, and maybe they don't feel much connection to the whole organization. So how did you make them feel that what they're doing was important?
Pretty down from the big, broader goal, as I said, as a company goal, and Japan goal, and team goal, and your role is this one. And as I said, the proof of your contribution to the company is that I need to explain to this person, saying your role is linked to this person's role, and also they're linked to the other stakeholders. So as a whole team and as all the connection of these things are contributing this much of the revenue to the company. Sometimes it's invisible, like the HR, finance, and other jobs. It's not the visible, so it's different. But their customer is employees. So I'm telling them that your role is contributing to make other people comfortable working with you as a one organization all the time. And at the end, that role is contributing to deliver total revenue of our company.
It sort of bottoms up.
Bottoms up, yes, right.
And what about, if you've got people engaged, they care. If they don't care, well, they don't try to change anything, they don't suggest anything, they don't think of anything, they just keep doing whatever they're doing, whatever they're told to do, which in Japan is very common, waiting to be told what to do. As opposed to people thinking, we could do this and we could try that, and what about this idea, we could save money here, we could do, getting people to bring ideas out, to get them thinking about the innovation or thinking something creative. Have you found anything that works well for getting creativity from teams in Japan?
It's very difficult for this country, the organization, to speak out something.
Well, why is that?
Because many people has that this will be fear for them to say that in public or to manager. Because if this is not correct things, I'm so embarrassed, they may feel. I think so. But the important thing is, of course, you're making the open communication from the manager to all people. And also, it might be idea to try with somebody, one person, as a pilot program. Okay, you go back home tonight and think about the 2 innovative ideas by tomorrow morning. It might be small, it may be something wrong with that one, but anything will be fine. Please tell me something. Then I pick it up tomorrow morning. Then share the idea with everybody. Then I will say, what's the value of this program in the company? It might be very small or tiny, but it might be something different from what we have done yesterday. So that has a value of doing something, try something. So let that person try that kind of things for a certain time, like 1 month or 2 months. Then review it and share the performance with everybody, even though it's not really contribution to the company itself. Then improve it. Then ask somebody else to get the idea of how to better adjust that kind of things as a whole pilot program. So if that is successful, then we can apply the same method to the other people, then spread out to the whole organization.
If you want to be successful as a leader, do the Leadership Training for Managers course. All companies need people who can both manage and lead. Leading people screams out for real skills in communication, dealing with all different types of people, being excellent at innovation, planning, delegation, handling mistakes, doing performance reviews really well, and inspiring and motivating the team. Do the Leadership Training for Managers course now in either Japanese or English. doing business with Japan? Do you really know how things work? Japan Business Mastery provides the answers. Do you have the right networks and know how to create them? Do you know how to get on the same wavelength with Japanese buyers? Do you know what being trustworthy looks like from the Japanese perspective? Japan Business Mastery is based on more than 30 years' experience in Japan and will become your go-to guide. Want to succeed in Japan? Buy Japan Business Mastery now. You're selecting people who you think could have ideas.
Yes.
Is that the idea?
Yes.
It's interesting, isn't it? I remember I read a story once about it was an American story, it was a country club, which I guess must be like a golf course or something. I'm not exactly sure what a country club in America looks like, but anyway. And the top executives of the club were concerned that the guests or the members were taking the shampoo home when they went to have get cleaned up after their game or whatever, and they're wondering all the things. And then somebody asked the guy who was like the cleaner or something, who took care of the change rooms or whatever. He said, "No problem, I got the solution," just like that. Took the cap off the bottles of the shampoo. So you can't take the bottle home.
That's a smart idea, yes.
But this is the point of that guy was probably the lowest level of hierarchy, but he's at the gemba, he's at the front line, and the idea was there. None of these highly paid, high-powered executives came up with that idea, but that guy did. So there's always that thing, isn't there, about
yes, exactly.
how do you, maybe some people at the bottom, so-called at the bottom, have got the best ideas, but they never get heard because they never have a chance. They're too low in the hierarchy, too young, too female, or whatever it is in Japan, that they don't get considered. But actually, they might have the best ideas. So that's interesting. You're picking people out. So were you picking people? Were you thinking, okay, I'm going to ask the women, or I'm going to ask someone who's a young person, or I'm going to ask someone who joined recently? Were you thinking like that, or how were you selecting the people?
It would be from my experience of talking with these people casually. Let's say when I come to the office in the morning, like before the starting time, I come to their desk and then talk about their casual things. What did you do last night? Or what was their dinner? Type of things. Then make the gap smaller and narrower to let them relax to say something, speak out. Then selection is different, but during that kind of conversation, if I found any sign of, okay, this person may have something, then I'll ask that person to get some idea.
Okay, I got you. All right. And, if you get, if you think about engaging people, encouraging ideas, the other key thing in all of this is trust. And I think every country is based on trust.
Yes.
But I think Japan particularly, it's not a transactional culture here. It's not like, we're going to have a transaction, never see each other again, because that's not how things work here. So the ongoing relationship, the continued business connection, the accountability is permanent, I believe, in this country from what I can see. So trust is at the center of everything. So what have you found worked well in getting trust?
It's another big challenge here, I think. But what I've done is one is back to the same thing, but show the strategy, open communication. And what I did is, okay, all this big task, let's divide these things. One is the role for you to do this. So I take care of this responsibility, then you take this one. That person take this one. So the things you're doing is not by yourself, but it's taking care of somebody, that's me, in the back. So, of course, that role should be done by that person, by himself. But it is very important to have the person feel engaged with the company and the team and the leader and the organization as a whole. So I needed to give him or her that feeling in the back. So clearly, I showed that person my goal and your goal is kind of the overlap somewhere. So that means we're working together, not for the whole business itself, but the part of business is what I'm done. So without your contribution, without your dedication, without your work, I cannot accomplish
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of conversation I made all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That's number one. And number two is more of the operation people like the airport, as you said. I often go to the airport guys to talk with them about how to manage the operation today and tomorrow things. And airport people feel sometimes isolated because physically,
You Narita.
Narita and Haneda itself.
Yeah.
So they are doing their operation by themselves, using the ground handling people. But they need to let the plane leave on time with the no or less complaints. It was very, very challenging. But we need to understand what they're doing. Otherwise, they feel like they are not engaged with the company. So by doing that kind of things, I believe I was building the making trust each other at the time. And from employees' point of view, they're being connected, being engaged is a kind of very important matter, I think.
Well, I think, I admire people like yourself who work in the airline industry, because when you look at it from the outside, it's a nightmare industry. You have some volcano go off somewhere, and then you can't fly. Or you have a SARS outbreak, or a COVID outbreak.
Yes, exactly.
You know, you have a war in Ukraine.
Yes.
I mean, anything can happen which impacts your industry.
Yes.
And you've got weather, you know, you've got mechanical,
Yes.
you've got staff. I mean, there's so many computations here on what can go wrong. And then people have to deal with the public. Probably not as crazy as America when you see some of these videos, what goes on inside American airplanes when they're not happy, but at least Japanese people are more calm than that. But still, Japanese people's sense of service expectation, politeness, quality is very high,
Yes.
you know, very picky consumer here, you know, and there are so many things that can go wrong. So I'm guessing that the stress for the workers who are dealing with the public must be enormous. So, you know, when you think about that, most of us don't have that degree of stress in our teams, mostly. And so from a leadership point of view, from a trust building point of view, it's not as complicated. But I can imagine when you've got people under a lot of pressure, it's, you know, it's the trust. I mean, when I was based in Nagoya, you might remember China Airlines plane crashed
Yes, I do.
at the airport. Remember that?
Yes.
And that I was Australian consul in Nagoya at that time, and in that same building was the China Airlines office.
Oh, is that
In the
right?
same building, you know, everyone was devastated, you know. So you can imagine, you know, if you're leading that team and their colleagues died, the passengers died, it's a nightmare, you know. I mean, Qantas has got a fantastic record, so they haven't had those sort of problems. But still, as a leader, how did you think about dealing with those sorts of issues when people are under extreme amounts of stress?
Yes, it is not easy, but I think the important things and what I've done is to be involved very much with the operation and the people. And let's say when we had a disruption, like the delay, overnight delay, and some unusual things happened, of course that matter should be handled at this department, that department, but we need to have somebody leading the team itself. That's myself at the time. So of course, we need to talk with the head office on the good guidance and direction, that kind of things. But under that one, the leader should show the direction and guidance clearly and immediately, timely to these people. This is the thing you need to do at this time. But even before saying that, they know how to deal with the cases each other. But importantly, I will be in the center of the operation at the time, and sales guys, marketing, finance, whatever department, we don't care, because we have very lean, small organization. Everybody should be involved for the unusual cases at the time. So in order for us to deal like that one, we should be prepared 24/7, unfortunately. So we are doing that kind of the training sometimes, and who can be at the site or the office in how many minutes.
Right.
Yeah, and we do that drill.
Right.
Yeah, and that is making the people to be prepared for any matters happen. And if the leaders are unavailable, for some reason for first 30 minutes, 1 hour, then the delegated person should take the role of the taking the leadership at the time. So we have the 2 or 3 people assigned for that role, and they're also trained to how to better manage the things and how to be properly involved with the matter solving at the time.
That's a structural approach. What I'm thinking more here is the human approach. For example, as a leader,
Yes.
you see your people under stress and strain. Things don't go the way they're supposed to go, or something happens. How do you deal with them individually to build that trust with them when they're under extreme stress?
Right. Under extreme stress, like our operation side of things, we unfortunately don't have the time to talk much about how to better deal mentally with the person. But this is after the fact things. I needed to, and also we needed to recognize the person in front of everybody, the whole system, the company itself, because that person dedicated very well the time and their knowledge to best solve the situation at the time. And of course, if we could have the room to talk each other during that extremely situation, of course, we talk to these people about what you are in what situation at this time, and what is the next role you should do in next 6 hours, 12 hours. We can do it, but most of the cases we have no time to do it. So maybe the after the fact follow-up recognition is very important.
So, you talked about having people designated to take accountability, responsibility, make decisions, This is not a great country for that. Individuals stepping up and having to take over and run something. Maybe they don't have the rank or they're designated, but still, the harmony and the sort of age hierarchy, there's a lot of things here which act against someone stepping up and stepping out. So the fact that you are training people for that is interesting. And I think probably for a lot of companies, they wonder, right, how do we get people to do that? Because it's not a natural play. I mean, if there was ever a disaster, I want to be surrounded by Australians because they will take control. Someone will step up and say, okay, this is what we're going to do. And so, no one's asking them. Just naturally, the leaders will step up and they'll lead, You don't have to be designated or have a training. They will do it because the culture builds that independence, that individuality, seize command, take control, take accountability, get people organised, and they go, right? So Australians are good in chaos. I think, sort of change management chaos, they're pretty good. But it's hard to get Japanese in that situation. I remember back when we had the Kobe earthquake, when I was in Nagoya at that time, and then we had the earthquake in, was it 95, and I just expected that things would work. This is Japan, everything works. But there was no good emergency system for the administration of local government, prefectural government, The coordination wasn't there. And like I was sitting in Nagoya, I felt it in Nagoya that day. It was very early in the morning, I felt it. And I'm watching the TV and Kobe's on fire, it's unbelievable, freeway's fallen over, right? And then maybe 1 or 2 days later, I read that they don't have water. Wasn't enough drinking water. I couldn't believe it. I was like, what? Something wasn't working in dealing with the disaster. In fact, that summer prior, we'd sold a lot of water into the Nagoya area from Australia, imported it. But it was a bit of a coolie summer at the end, so there's a lot of water left. And I suggested to the Australian government that the government should buy the water back from the distributors and then send it to Kobe, which Prime Minister Keating, Paul Keating, he agreed to that. So the Australian government bought back the water and then we shipped it to Kobe. But I was surprised at how I just expected things would go smoothly. They didn't go smoothly. So I thought about, okay, what about chaos? How do you deal with that? So it's interesting how you're designating people and giving them the ability to step up and training them to do that.
Yeah, what I'm doing is not really training itself, but whenever meeting we have, I'd say to the person, okay, if you're me, what do you want? Or what do you say? What do you do? That's the kind of things. And if you're CEO of the company, what's the decision?
Mm.
It might be not the right decision, but it's kind of the very good argument between me and that person. So it might be a little bit the training itself to change mind of the thinking way of the doing business. So I think this is a good question given to everybody at the time. If you are your manager, what do you think?
What are you going to do?
Yes, yes.
That's a good idea. And talk a little bit about building a culture. You know, we have, in any organisation, we have the macro culture of the organisation, globally or headquarters or whatever. And then you have the local branch. In Japan's case, it's the Qantas brand in Japan. You run that. And you've got Japanese culture, of course, as a standard. But then you've got your leadership to create a culture for the organisation with a Japanese flavour, I guess, and have a distinctive culture here that's different to the other airlines, etc. What things did you find work well to build a good culture in the organisation?
The first thing we need to understand is that we're a global company organization based in Japan. So we have the very, very unique Japan culture itself, but we need to respect for that one. But there's something we need to get rid of because of this is the things we have done in the past, but there's no need for the future. And myself, as a position of the general manager, I have two hats on me. One is the senior management, the head office. One is a leader of Japan. So sometimes maybe I spend more time and more thoughts in Japan for 70% and 30% head office.
Right.
So it's a balancing thing.
Between the
depends on the each matters. So one important thing from my head of the Japan leader, I need to explain to the head office about this is the unique culture we need to maintain towards the future, which will be better work for the global business style in the future. And sometimes I need to tell my people in Japan saying, okay, we need to go away from the things we did before. Then, okay, let's try these things from global point of view. Even though this doesn't seem to fit the Japan market now, because the business approach to suppliers and other market will be changing towards the future.
In the future.
In future. So if there's somebody feels a little bit of their changing, I need to be responsible or expand that method or the thoughts to everybody. And you try that one. I take the responsibility of these changes as a result. That's the things I need to approach these people. Otherwise, for those people who are working for the company for long years, it's very different and difficult to change their mindset at the time.
Yeah, you get in a habit.
And very fear to do that thing. So it's natural the things happen to the most of the Japanese companies.
So if someone was going to be sent to Japan by their organisation, okay, you go to Japan, take care of the organisation there. If you were going to give them some advice how to be successful in Japan now, they don't know Japanese language, they don't know Japan, they're just turning up here, you know, from headquarters or from some branch, and they've got to run the operation. What would be some advice you'd give them to be successful here?
Yeah, there are many cases like that one that send the expat to the Japan. And because the person doesn't have to speak Japanese, if they could, that would be better in communication. But the first thing is to listen to what the employees think and to see what a successful program in the past and to see why that program went successful at the time in this culture. That's one. And of course, this is kind of general comments, but build a strategic decision to be shared with everybody face to face, not only by the email, face to face at the meeting, talking to everybody verbally to immediately get their response. Then that person should make the communication on that one. Then the person should repeat that monthly or weekly basis to better understand what they think and to deliver this leadership style to everybody at the time. And that leader also should be flexible and adaptable for taking many changes. And it might be important for that leader to show how to best digest the changes to everybody. then that would be a very good example of the making job done differently tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, generally speaking, as you said, it's a challenge for getting along with the Japanese people here.
Mm-hmm.
But also Japanese people trying to get more globalized
Mm-hmm.
in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they said the communication is important.
Drinking together.
Drinking together is
Mm-hmm.
very important. But I agree and disagree with that one.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, agreeing point is that it's very important to make the casual conversation discussion point somewhere
Mm-hmm.
away from the business in
Mm-hmm.
the square box itself.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, we need to set the goal of ending time.
Mm-hmm.
So if we have that kind of the time, let's set up at 1 hour only this time,
Mm-hmm.
because we need to be prepared for the things happening next,
Mm-hmm.
and we should be prepared for the what should do for tomorrow morning type
Mm-hmm.
of things. So that communication and open communication is very, very important.
Mm-hmm.
But the not spend too much for I don't know, adapting or the to be more towards the more too much respect to the local
Mm-hmm.
culture itself,
Mm-hmm.
because now this is the borderless world at this time.
Mm-hmm.
We will not saying about your nationality, where you born, or what language do you speak, will not be matter in the future, I think,
Mhm.
and even now, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So as a human itself, even though the national is different, this is Japan, but as a human to human,
Mm-hmm.
we need to casually, openly talk more about what your thoughts and what my thoughts are
Mm-hmm.
towards the future.
Mm-hmm.
That's very important for those people who are newly coming to Japan to work together with this organization here locally, I think.
Anything else they should think about?
Sorry?
Anything else they should think about?
Yeah, back to the same thing, but clearly share the company goal
Mm-hmm.
and leaders' role
Mm-hmm.
and organization's role and time frame setup.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is very important to review at the end of that time
Mm-hmm.
and to make the adjustment. And strategy is important, but the strategy sometimes should be flexible. We need to
Mhm.
make changes at the time when it is necessary, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, often people are sent to Japan to fix the operation. You know, there's been some problem. The previous leader, for whatever reason, has
Mhm.
been removed,
Mhm.
and the person who's getting on the plane is being told, "Okay, your job, go to Japan, turn things around, fix it up." So, the temptation is when you get here, everything must be broken. I'm here to fix it. But if you're working in the company, been in the company for a long time, or you're Japanese working for the company for a short time, you're looking at this person who's gotten off the plane. They know nothing about Japan, nothing about the culture. Is it really broken? How should they approach it?
What I need to tell the person is okay, let's see the reality, what's happening in the market and what's happening with the organization. And try not to make the whole things black and white. It might be some function working well, which maybe not be reported well to the head office on that one. So let's spend some time, maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, to have the observation of how each function is working. From my point of view and from your point of view, then we can discuss about the future fixing plan, how to make it. That's one thing. And also I think we need to make the good communication with the customers and stakeholders to get their feedback on the past performance of our company and how they want us to fix it, how they want us to change it. That might be important. And also you need to tell me and our people about what are thoughts of the head office, because we didn't know what the head office, the management, to think about our organization itself. So it's very important for us to improve towards the future to know by knowing that what the direction given from the head office, what's the perception given to the Japan organization itself.
I think your point about talking to the stakeholders and the clients is a very good one, because when you talk to them, that's when you realise why things are done like that in Japan. Like headquarters may have a view, terrific, but you go and talk to the buyers, and they tell you, well, it's got to be like this. We require that. And you go, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, that's important. Oh, I have to change my thinking about how we operate in this country because I didn't know that that was an important thing because I didn't have knowledge. And maybe your own team tell you exactly the same information, but you think, oh, no, that can't be right. But then the client tells you, oh, well, it must be right. So that's grounding in reality, I think, is important.
Actually, it is good and bad. Good to hear from the stakeholders and clients about what they think about us. But at the same time, they are thinking about their profit and their benefit at the end.
That's true.
So sometimes we are told by head office people saying, okay, Japan organization is fine, but you're doing too much to your customers.
Yeah, that's true.
Who are you working for?
Yeah,
that's a question.
That's a common question in Japan, isn't it? Who are you working for, the buyer or for us?
Yes, that's right.
Well, what would be your definition of leadership?
It's, of course, the showing the good strategy to the older people to share that goal again, the same thing, and understand the market and give the appropriate direction to the older section and the people. And as I said, we need to listen to them all the time, and we need to make the judgment and good judgment of which is correct, which is not correct all the time, to make the further decision towards the future. And as I said repeatedly, we need to have the open communication with the people, and it's not really a general leadership things, but my things I've done is that to be involved with the operation people to some extent, to get to know each other, what the role they are doing, how they are working towards the company, and also that will be the opportunity for me to talk to them about the total strategic things and the goal sharing things. That's what I think, and also the take the risk, own the matter is very important, I think.
Take the risk on the...
Own the matter.
Oh, own the matter.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
That is the things that every employee should do, small or big. Taking the risk is important things to move ahead. Otherwise, nothing happens, nothing changed. So in this environment of the changing management we need to take some risk of doing something new. So I need to show the example of doing these kind of things.
Yourself.
Right.
Lead from the front.
Yes. Right.
Well, Ogino-san, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
It's been great to have you talk about your experiences in leading in Japan.
Wonderful talking with you, Greg. Thank you.
Thank you. So join us again for our next episode of Japan's top business interviews.